for some fancy. Hello there. If you're new here, my name is Paula Jean and I share about stuff that I make, usually sewing stuff on this channel. And today on this very dark, gloomy, rainy day, it is so dark in here. I am like this close to the window just so you can see my face, and it's the middle of the day. So maybe this is the perfect time to share with you some fancy blouses. One that I already made that I want to show you the details of, and one that I am currently making. So let's just dive right in. If you saw my last video, which was just me playing dress up in my closet and kind of making some potential Halloween outfits out of stuff that I have sewn, you've seen a sneak peek of the Harriet blouse that I recently made out of black lace and satin. This pattern was a collaboration between Lyrical Toile, which I think predominantly does children's wear, but also does some women's wear patterns, and Micah, who is from the Sew It Curly Instagram page. She is a fabulous sewist. She pays so much attention to detail, and I've enjoyed her page for years, and so she collaborated with Lyrical Toile to make this pattern a few years ago. I had in my stash this lace that kind of caught my eye because it was a little bit different at the time from some of the yardage lace that I was seeing. The flowers are in this cluster that kind of reminds me of hydrangeas, and I just hadn't seen that. It's a fairly robust lace as well, and it also has this beautiful scalloped edge, which I didn't end up using on this blouse, but I did save all of the edges. It was scalloped on both sides of the fabric, so I have a bunch of yardage of this scalloped edge that I don't know what I'm going to do with, but I'll find something, I'm pretty certain. I had used a little bit of it to make a dress that I wore to an event many years ago. I no longer have the dress, but I had always kind of wanted a black lace top of some description, and I just hadn't come across really what kind of style I thought that I wanted until the Harriet blouse pattern. Because it has a yoke and it's got really nice cuffs and collars and options, which I'll tell you about, but I just thought that pairing it with some black satin would be kind of the perfect thing, and I am super happy with how this turned out. I find it takes on different qualities if the neck is unbuttoned and open, and then looks completely different when it's all buttoned up. I also use some of the lace to make a bow tie around the neckline for when I want that. It can become kind of more edgy if you wear just a solid black bra underneath of it, or you can wear a camisole. And of course, it's a great layering piece, and you can pair it with any number of vests or corset tops. So it really does end up being quite a versatile piece and kind of perfect for any kind of fancy event, but I also think it looks really good just wearing it casually. About the pattern, the Harriet is a choose your own adventure pattern. Like I said, there are many options, and it is labeled as a confident beginner and above pattern. To be honest with you, I would actually classify this as an intermediate pattern. And it is not because the construction is any more difficult than a regular shirt pattern. It's just that there are so many instructions because there are so many options, not only in the construction of things, but also for little add-ons and ways to finish seams and stuff, that I think a beginner sewist could get overwhelmed by the instructions. They're very, very good, but I'm not somebody who is always great at determining what skill level a pattern is, but I would definitely say that I can see a beginner getting overwhelmed by the instructions on this one. One thing that stays consistent no matter which style options you choose is the yoke. It's really neat. It's just a plain yoke in the back, but it comes up over the shoulder to the front so you don't have a shoulder seam. And it has a really nice rounding at the front bodice of the yoke. So it looks really pretty if you do a contrast yoke with that, or do some piping or some trim to kind of highlight the shape of that. So let me tell you some of the other options, and I've actually had to write them down so that I don't forget any of them. Starting at the top, you can have a plain or rounded collar, a puff or plain sleeve, front yoke gathers or bust darts, regular or elongated cuffs, and a regular or hidden button placket. Plus, there are instructions for how to add piping to the collar, cuffs, placket, and yoke. Plus, there are instructions for doing regular or French seams. Plus, there are instructions for doing a couture construction or a regular construction of the collar and collar band. For my version, I chose to do the puff sleeves, the elongated cuffs, a regular button placket, and I did the bust dart version. I also changed the back. The back has some gathers at the center back along the yoke line, and I don't like a lot of blousing and extra fabric in the back of my shirts. I just don't like the way that it feels, and I don't think it looks awesome on me. So I actually changed the back below the yoke, and I used the Rosa shirt pattern from Tilly and the Buttons. This is a great pattern. It has princess seams, and I've made it a couple of times, and I really like how it fits in the back. So I just took those pieces and retrofitted them to the Harriet yoke. I don't have any footage of me doing that because I actually did it a couple of years ago when I first made the muslin of the Harriet blouse, but it ended up working really nicely, and I prefer that fit. For the collar, if you aren't already overwhelmed with all the options, you can also get a separate Harriet collar pack. So if you're not happy with the options of the rounded or plain on the Harriet blouse, they put out a pattern that has 21 different collars and also 2 like bow tie options that you can either use with the Harriet blouse, or it also comes in the collar pack with a dicky style attachment, which I actually think is very cool for a couple of reasons. The dicky and the collar don't take up very much fabric, and if you're somebody like me who likes the layered look of a collar under a sweater or a top, but don't like the bulk of having like a full shirt underneath, then this might be perfect for you. I was also thinking that this might be a great option for anybody who spends a lot of time in a wheelchair. So if you want that layered look, but it's just too like kind of cumbersome and uncomfortable to wear layers like that, this is a great way to kind of use it as almost an accessory, something to fancy up or just have that layered look without all of the bulk of having sleeves in a whole shirt. It has a little adjustable side strap so that it doesn't move all over the place, and I just kind of thought that this was cool. And you can make this out of anything from like quilting cotton or poplin to some sequined fabric, and yeah, I just thought that it was really neat. So that's another option with this. I used one of the collars from that collar pack on my Harriet blouse. I think it's called the long pointed collar. There's different names for all of them, and I think that's the one that I used for this. And then I also, for the bow tie, I used the wide bow tie pattern that also comes in that collar pack. Another decision that I needed to make, because I was using lace for the front and back bodice and for the sleeves, were the seam finishes. So lace is kind of see-through, and I needed to decide whether I wanted the seams to be prominent or not. I did a couple of tests. I tried a French seam, which gives a more kind of solid line, and so you notice them a lot more, and that can be a design choice. And I also tried the regular seam, and I ended up going with that because I just like the uninterrupted look a little bit better for this garment. So I approach this the same way that I do when I'm sewing lace on a lingerie item. I sewed a regular seam, pressed the seam open, and then I did a little zigzag over the center of the seam, and that was just to hold the seam open so that the seams don't get like on top of each other or folded over one another and looking inconsistent all around the garment. And then I trimmed the sides of the seams, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. And now blouse number 2, which I am working on, is the Lyrical Blouse by Pattern Emporium. This one is very beginner friendly. It has really great instructions. The instructions are with photos, but they've done a really great job of taking very clear photos. All of each pattern piece element is in a different fabric, like has a different color, so you can really distinguish between the pieces and see what's going on. So this one is actually great for beginners. You still have some options though. It comes with 3 sleeve lengths, a short, a 3/4 length sleeve, and a long sleeve. And you also have collar options. So one style is the necktie version, which is basically kind of a banded collar, and the band extends down into a tie that you can either tie loosely or you can tie it at the neck for kind of a pussy bow blouse effect. But it also has a regular collar stand and collar version that you can do. There is also a separate piece for an FBA, and it has a dart in it. The regular one does not. And at the back, it has a yoke as well and some soft gathers along the back of the yoke. And I am making this out of this gorgeous chiffon fabric that I have had, again, for years. I know I keep saying that, but I used to be a fabric hoarder, so I have quite a stash. But this beautiful chiffon that is kind of a royal blue with black and these flower medallion looking things on it. I actually thought that I was going to make the Harriet blouse out of this fabric, but then I changed course. I had a couple of years ago, though, knowing that I wanted to make a blouse out of it, I had soaked the fabric in a cornstarch mixture to kind of stiffen it up a bit. I've done this before on other lightweight fabrics like this, and it's worked really well. So I did it on this as well. I don't have the original blog post that I followed in order to do that, but I did find a comparable one, and I'll leave that link down below, because stiffening it up just a little bit really does help along the way while you're cutting and also while you're sewing. I'm going to be doing the long sleeves with the necktie, and I am going to be making a few changes because I don't seem to be able to just follow a pattern as is, and I think I've accepted that about myself at this point. But yeah, I'm going to be widening the necktie below the neckline, just because in my head I see like a kind of a fuller bow and I like it. And I'm also going to be changing the back, so I'm not going to have those gathers in the back. I'm going to retrofit those rosa pieces so that I have the shaped and seamed back. I think those are the only changes that I'm making. I will try to show you along the way. This isn't going to be a sew along or anything, but I'll point out where I'm deviating from the pattern or the construction a bit. And I think I'm making enough changes that I need to make a muslin, so I'm gonna do that. So here is the muslin in all its glory with my baseball cap and sweatpants on, but I'm very happy with it. Look at this sleeve. Like, it's gorgeous. Like, when you do this, look how full this is. It feels really, really nice. I didn't do any adjustments to it. I often have to shorten my sleeves. I didn't have to. I think the pattern is drafted for somebody who's 5'5". I'm 5'6", but I have short arms. So that's great. And yeah, I'm very happy that the back fits really nicely. I don't have a lot of blousing because I'm not really into that part. And I'm pretty happy with the front. I may move the bust dart down like 1/2 inch, and I might do like a 3/8 of an inch full bust adjustment, because this fits and I'm wearing one of my regular bras and just a little camisole under here. But I think I'd like just a tiny bit more room in the bust. I did use the FBA piece, but the dart is fairly small on it. So that's not too surprising that I would need to do that. I like the length. This is the shorter length. It comes in 2 different lengths, and I'm short torsoed, so I use the shorter length. This is not hemmed, so it'd be like right here. I'm happy with that. I do think that I'm going to probably curve it up a little bit. I like my shirt tail hemlines to be a little bit more curved on the side, because I find that gives me a little bit more room in my hips without adding to the volume of the garment itself. And when I wear things untucked, I just like the look of that better. And in the back, I'll probably take off a little bit of that tail to make it a little bit more even with the front. But yeah, I'm very glad that I increased the width of the bow here. So the pattern piece, this is the necktie of it's the regular width that the pattern came with, but on the pattern piece, sorry, end of the day,
on the pattern piece, it's the same width all the way down, which is fine. And I've seen online a lot of people wearing it just kind of open with the tie like this. I know that I will likely wear it with the necktie tied for this style. Another thing to note is that because this pattern comes with the option of having a collar band and a regular collar, it uses the same front. So if you are crossing it over, and imagine that, so when you tie the tie, let me just get this tied here. When you tie the tie, you do end up with just that little opening there. That doesn't bother me. For like a micro split second thought, oh, maybe I'll curve the front so that it kind of opens that up into a little bit of a V-neck. But then I would have to draft a placket to go with it. And honestly, I'm just not going to bother. So yeah, very, very happy with it. All right, I think we're good to go.
I've marked the wrong side of all of my pieces with painter's tape, and this blouse starts with the sleeve construction. So you'll notice there's a curve at the hem, and this bias binding is what forms the casing for the elastic. So you'll need to determine the length of your sleeve before you start. You also hem the sleeve at this point, and I've decided to give my little rolled hem foot a try. And this was a little bit finicky to get started, but we got there in the end. Such a pretty finish. I am putting this blouse together with French seams, and the seam allowances on this pattern are only 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to show you my favorite way to do French seams when I have that narrow seam allowance, rather than trying to add extra so that I don't make a mistake. It's with a combination of my serger and my 1/4 inch foot on my regular machine. This is my serger. I've got the blade up right here, and you'll notice that I only have the right needle end and I've removed the left needle. So when I do that, it gives me like a serged seam that is 1/8 of an inch. Just in case you don't believe me, I then go ahead and press this seam like I normally would. Press it as sewn, and then I press it to one side, kind of spreading the seam allowance. And then I turn it right side out, but really it's wrong side out because I had sewn the seam together, wrong sides together first. So now I'm doing right sides together, and then I'm going to go ahead and press this seam. And then I like to use my 1/4 inch foot so that I know I'm getting exactly a 1/4 inch seam. Press the seam as sewn again. And then press the seam toward the back. Et voilà, a beautiful French seam. And I don't have any fraying bits or any weirdness coming through on the other side because the serger just finished that first pass really nicely. So that's how I like to do my French seams. Another place I'm deviating is on the yoke. So in the instructions, they only have you cut one yoke piece and attach it right sides together to the front and the back and just finish the seam how you like. I prefer to have a yoke facing, so I just cut the yoke twice and I'm just sandwiching it. So I've got the one layer that is right sides together with the front bodice, and then I've got the other layer with the other yoke facing under here, right side to wrong side. And I'm gonna sew the shoulders together and then do a burrito to attach the back. So this is the necktie interfacing piece. As you can see, it's just a rectangle placed on the fold, and this is where it's applied to the necktie, just the part that goes around the neck. And I used a super lightweight knit interfacing since this is such a soft, lightweight fabric. And I decided to actually curve the ends instead of just having a straight line here. I curved this toward the fold. The fold ends up on top. And I did that just so that if I do decide to wear the necktie just loose and open, that creates a little bit of a softer break than having a hard line across there that would create possibly a weird bend. So that's just something that I'm trying out after having success on that on my Bryn cardigan. Look how pretty this turned out. I'm so happy with it. I've rinsed out the cornstarch and the fabric is now so soft and floaty. It feels like I'm wearing something made of angel wings or something. I'm bummed that the lighting and the weather isn't better. We don't usually have this many days of gloomy weather, but here we are. But I'm finding that I love the necktie tied in several different ways, either in a single bow or a double bow, or just hanging loosely or tied loosely. I like it tucked and untucked. I like the sleeves up and down. So I think I'm actually going to get a lot more wear out of this than I even originally intended. Obviously, it can be layered under any number of things. This is just a black tank top that I have. But yeah, 2 giant thumbs up on this blouse and this blouse pattern. So let me know down in the comments which blouse is your favorite if you have one. I know I don't. I love both of them. Thank you so much for watching. Take great care of yourselves. Happy blouse making, and I will see you in the next one.